All right, good people. Welcome to Don't Believe the Hype, the good, the bad, the ugly of fantasy sports. I'm Maurice.
And I'm Marcus.
All right, Marcus. So before we actually talk about what happened in week 8, I got to go ahead and say, man, look, was I right about Juju? Was I right about Juju on that beat?
You was absolutely right about Juju.
Yeah. Yeah. So
once, I mean, only because he had that 97-yard touchdown. And as he was running, I was like, yeah, Maurice was right.
as he was running, I was saying, man, please don't get tackled. Because he kept looking back.
Right.
But honestly,
they always tell you never look back.
Right. I mean, but honestly, even without that, I mean, again, what he did, nearly 200 yards receiving. I believe he had 7, 8 catches, and then he had that 97-yard touchdown. That was definitely an Antonio Brown type of game. Very impressive. Even if you take that touchdown out, we're still looking at 6 catches, almost 100 yards, which would have, again, very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Amazing how Pittsburgh found the deep passing game despite Martavis sitting on the sideline, which was something that he complained about them not having. And then once he sits, and all his targets go to Juju, and he comes through.
Exactly. So Juju on that beat definitely stepped up. I appreciate that. I played him pretty much. So actually, quick story on that. So I had one of my receivers was on the bye. One of my receivers on the bye, and then Parker didn't play on Thursday. So I was sitting there looking at who I was going to pick up. So originally I picked up Paul Richardson. And that was actually before we did the podcast. So I picked up Paul Richardson. And again, that would have been a great play too. He had 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But I said, you know what? That pickup was only going to be for last week. I wanted to see if there was someone that I could pick up that could potentially stay on my team. Knowing what was going on with Bryant, knowing how Juju had progressed. So I'm going to go ahead and pick him up. Picked him up. I threw him in as my third receiver. Honestly, I didn't need him because I won like 120 to 59. But again, just knowing that you got that person that again at the third receiver spot, you can check the box. And I think I might roll out. I might roll with him going forward. He's on a bye, but I might roll with him going forward.
As you should. I see no reason, for him to just be a one and done as far as, you adding him to your team for the bye week,
right?
Like for another receiver, and then you drop him just because your other receiver is back from the bye week. I would say hold on to him. I mean, we are approaching the end of the season, the regular season for fantasy. So you need all the guys you can, all the productive guys you can on your squad.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. We were going to talk about that later, but since you mentioned it, right now you're entering week 8. As a fantasy owner, you should not be preparing for week 10. You should be preparing for the playoffs. You should be preparing for week 13, week 14, week 15, week 16, because the move that you make now, that's gonna shape your team and determine, hey, if you're going to be in it, if you're not going to be in it. And I say like this: whether you're 8-0 or 1-8, you need to be putting up your best team out there because, again, I'm making moves potentially to, to better my team for the playoffs. But if I'm 1-8, I'm going. This is my approach. Misery loves company. So if I can knock you out of the playoffs and put you down there with your job, every week becomes my Super Bowl. And my job is to knock you off. So, so that's how I approach it. So, and again, so like I said, we're not just looking for week 10. We're looking down the line. So, like for me, for instance, guys that I'm looking at that say, hey, you can plug in on your team and can potentially help you run. A guy like Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen will be back in a few weeks. He's actually available in like 30 to 40% of the leagues. So actually even more depending on the site that you play on, Yahoo, ESPN. So yeah, you might have to take a crunch and give up a roster spot now. But again, after the trade, we'll get to that later, but after the trade that they made over at Carolina,
Right.
He already was the number 1 wide receiver, but
it's no question. It's
exactly,
really no question there.
Exactly. Right. So Olsen's one of the guys that I like. Marlon Mack at running back is another guy that I like because eventually I think that they're gonna pass the torch to him. He might not be the long-term starter, but I think they're gonna pass the torch to at least see what they have this year, especially if they're not gonna make the playoffs. Luck might not even come back. So that's what you got to start looking at. Those guys that they're on the line will get those touches. So Who do you like that, hey, look, that's available that could potentially help your team win a championship?
It's got to be the Paul Richardsons, the Juju Smith-Schusters. I was fortunate to grab Paul Richardson on both of my Yahoo teams. Actually, my ESPN team this week. The only thing was with the ESPN league, I missed his performance against Houston. But I was able to grab him in time for his 2-touchdown performance against Houston in both of my Yahoo leagues. And it definitely came in handy. The way I look at Seattle right now, they have 0 run game. They finally have some offensive line protection for Wilson and Dwayne Brown coming over from the Texans. And whereas Baldwin is a possession guy, he can go down the field, but, doesn't have breakaway speed, but can stretch the field a little bit. Paul Richardson actually does. They complement each other along with Trent Lockett, or Tyler Lockett, excuse me.
Right.
So all 3 of those guys in a passing offense now, a heavy passing offense. I mean, with Jimmy Graham, I see targets for Richardson. I see opportunities. And in the red zone, if it's not Jimmy Graham, then it seems to be not Doug Baldwin, but Paul Richardson, the second guy for targets and looks. So I would have to say Paul Richardson if you're definitely in the need of a wideout right now. On my team, Chris Hogan looks like he'll be out, so I'm plugging Paul Richardson in.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, so now let's get this train back on the track, man. So week 8. Who lived up to the hype for you?
Everyone that played in that Houston-Seattle game. Just everybody, except the defenses. I mean, Russ had a good game. He went for 450 and 4 scores. Deshaun went off for 402.
And 4 scores.
4 scores. Lamar Miller, rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown. Hopkins, 8 catches, 224 in a score. Paul Richardson, $150 and 2 scores. Jimmy Graham, a touchdown catch.
Will Fuller,
just everyone who played in that game offensively. Was just, they performed. They showed up. They probably won you your week as long as you didn't have their defenses. Just everybody in that game lived up to the hype. The game itself lived up to the hype. Somebody unfortunately had to lose.
Yeah. It was like a Madden game, man. It was Tecmo Bowl all over again.
Right. Of course, Zeke's still running through the streets of DC right now. I think he's made it onto New York Avenue right now.
Right. But I want to piggyback, and I want to go back to the Houston Seattle game because last week I mentioned that I wanted to see that was one of the things I wanted to see. I wanted to see how Deshaun Watson did against Seattle, but also what I wanted to see is those the two quarterbacks. This is how I look at it. Deshaun Watson is the young, up-and-coming black quarterback. He played against the standard at black quarterback. And again, Cam Newton's a great quarterback, but he's also inconsistent. Russell Wilson is the standard the same way that Warren Moon was the standard, when you were, when as an Oiler and you were watching him come up. And again, not trying to differentiate or even make any kind of separation where it's saying black quarterback. The reason I mention that is because there's so few starting black quarterbacks in the NFL. So anytime you see a quarterback, and again, in this matchup, this marquee matchup, and they both ball out, like you said, both 400 yards passing, both 4 touchdowns, and they played I would say as close to mistake-free football as you could expect. So I was very impressed by both of those guys. Like you said, somebody had to lose. And, Russell Wilson, again, I have him on my team. And my ESPN league is – now I'm actually in my Yahoo league. And I actually we get bonus points in that league once you hit 400-plus yards. So I actually ended up winning because of the bonus points. So Russell Wilson, Sierra, Future, I love y'all, man. Appreciate y'all. Came through for me in the clutch. But no, seriously, on a serious note, trade deadline just passed. This was probably the most action we saw in some leagues. I know in some years. I know we kind of talked about some of the moves that were made, and usually during that time you see a backup quarterback traded, this thing. That was nothing major, but we saw some big names. Jay Ajayi got moved. Kelvin Benjamin got moved. Dwayne Brown got moved to Seattle. Of the moves that happened, Jimmy Garoppolo going to the 49ers. That move. And then also, let's talk about A.J. McCarron, who almost got traded. Right. Almost got traded. Almost ruined his career by going to the Browns. But thank God he did. Hey, Browns messed up.
Gotta thank the Browns for being late.
Exactly. But of those trade deadline, the trade moves rather, which one were you most impressed with? Like, which one do you think, hey, this move right here could really elevate this team?
I would have to say Jay Ajayi going to the Eagles. I was just surprised by the move. I understood why the Eagles did it. LeGarrette Blount is okay, but he doesn't have that explosiveness. I mean, he's more of the back that'll weigh you down by the time we get to the fourth quarter. It was times in that 49ers game where he would hit the hole, but it would just close up because he doesn't have that explosiveness to get through there. Whereas, if you had a Ajayi, not saying he's the end-all, be-all, the next great Eagle running back, but we've seen what he could do with the Dolphins. And this year it's been different because they have Cutler and they have Matt Moore and they don't know what they want to do. So his numbers have taken a hit. I don't believe he's yet to have a rushing touchdown at this point, I believe. But it goes to show me that the Eagles are all in at this point. Yeah, we're 7-1, but we're not settling.
Right.
We still have pieces that we need to, put into this potential Super Bowl run. And Ajayi fits in. So I would have to say Ajayi. The Kelvin Benjamin move, I didn't really understand it because Tyrod doesn't really throw the ball like that. He checks it down to LeSean. He may take that deep shot every once in a while, but it seemed like Benjamin was having an off year anyway, so I'm not understanding that move. Dwayne Brown, it definitely helps Russ. A.J. McCarron not going to the Browns helps him a lot.
Absolutely.
And the Garoppolo move was pretty solid. It goes to show you that Shanahan is gambling on this young kid and not waiting on Kirk Cousins. So definitely.
Yeah.
But I would say Ajayi though.
Okay, Ajayi. Okay. And before I tell you who I like, just back to that Garoppolo deal. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this offseason that just passed, the Patriots were actually in some serious negotiations talks with moving him. The Browns were throwing everything at him, and if I'm not mistaken, they were willing to give up the 12th pick in the draft. They said no to the first pick, but they had that second first-round pick. And if I'm not mistaken, they mentioned offering that. So I kind of feel that, again, and even looking at what the Browns offered for McCarron, who, again, Jimmy Garoppolo is rated much higher than McCarron is, and more coveted, I would say. They were offered a second and a third round pick for him, where the 49ers actually just gave up a second round pick. So I kind of feel like the Patriots kind of sell themselves a little short. But also I do think the fact that looking at Tom Brady, a young Tom Brady, Tom Brady looks like he just came, right out, with Michigan locker room. So
down there,
exactly playing at a very high level. And I kind of laughed a few years ago when he said he wanted to play till he was like 45 years old. But if anyone can live up to Brett Favre's hype and playing till they can't any longer, that would definitely be Tom Brady. And also the thing too is that Tom Brady, as competitive as he is, as meticulous as he is, he knows when he's done it. And some players don't know when to quit. I can tell Tom Brady will like, listen, I can't do it anymore, and he'll be able to leave on his own terms, which I wasn't sure when they had Garoppolo if they were going to allow him that courtesy. So I'm glad they did trade him. You know, I'm not a Tom Brady fan, but I definitely respect his game. You have to respect his game. But back to my point. The best trade to me was Dwayne Brown going to Seattle. It was good for two reasons. One, because they were talking about potentially moving Jimmy Graham to get Dwayne Brown. So one, they kept Jimmy Graham. So it wasn't a addition by subtraction kind of trade. They gave up some draft picks, and honestly, Seattle's not really good at drafting, so they didn't really lose anything in my opinion. So they gave up those draft picks, and then they get themselves a blindside protector, a legitimate left tackle, probably the best left tackle they've had since Russell Okung. So look at what Russell Wilson has done without anyone blocking for him on the blind side.
Right.
What do you think he'll be able to do with that guy blocking for him, with the ascension of Paul Richardson, with a Tyler Lockett, with his safety blanket, Doug Baldwin, with a Jimmy Graham, and no run game? The game that you saw against Houston, get used to seeing those kind of games from Russell Wilson. Seriously.
Right. And think about it. Dwayne Brown will probably be the freshest left tackle in the NFL right now. He missed 8 games. So he's walking into a situation, the stretch run, the NFL stretch run, and he's fresh. He's not worn down already by opposing linemen. So he'll be ready to go from, jump come Sunday.
Agreed. All right. So as we enter upcoming week 9, who are you hyped about?
I'm hyped about all the Texans again going up against a horrible Colts defense. So I'm just going to go back to the well again. Deshaun, Lamar, DeAndre. That's the stack right there. That's the fantasy stack.
Okay.
That's my top fantasy stack. So
okay. All right. I can respect that. And because honestly, Deshaun Watson is the highest priced quarterback on the slate. It's well deserved. So I can't argue with that there. So if we're going with the Houston stack, I'm just going to sprinkle in a few more elements to that. You definitely have to play Devin Funchess. Again, Olsen's not back yet. Kelvin Benjamin is gone.
Somebody got to catch the ball.
Right, somebody has to catch the ball. And listen, Christian McCaffrey is going to get 6 carries, 5 yards, and he's going to get 12 targets. But we need somebody that's going to be able to at least be some type of vertical threat. And so Devin Funchess is definitely in a good position to eat this weekend. I also like Todd Gurley. See, the Rams were on a bye last week, so people kind of forgot about Todd Gurley. He's going against the Giants defense that's not really that good. Also, Janoris Jenkins is out again, top cornerback. So you could also potentially now again, if you're going with a lot of the Texans, you're not gonna have a lot of cash left, especially if you throw in Gurley. So if you want to look at one of the wide receivers from the Rams, either Robert Woods, who has been getting a lot of targets, or even Cooper Kupp, who is again a really, really polished rookie wide receiver, that might be a good third receiver for you to throw in.
Right, and the Rams aren't the highest scoring team just by luck.
Exactly.
They've been moving the ball, and they've been scoring, and they score in different ways. And Gurley can catch the ball out the backfield, or he can run it in. Jared Goff he's not making too many mistakes. And like you said, Tavon Austin They line him up as a running back. They give him jet sweeps, and Cooper Kupp has good hands, and Sammy Watkins hasn't done much yet, but we're still waiting on him. So they have a lot of weapons, and that's one of the reasons why they're the highest scoring team in the league.
Right. Right. Also, if you're going to have that high scoring Rams offense, high scoring Texans and Rams in offense, I would go ahead and suggest playing their defense. Their defense is not actually the highest ranked as far as the price is concerned. They're not quite. They're like top 10. And again, they have a juicy matchup against the Giants, who again, no Odell Beckham, no Brandon Marshall, no run game, no O-line. And Eli Manning, again, he's due for a 3-interception game. So I like the Rams this week. I like that defense. And I'm going to, again, in FanDuel, I'm going to go ahead and pair them with Greg the Leg. And that's what I'm going to do.
Right. I mean, he's as consistent as they come. And the Rams, yeah, they kind of get stopped sometimes. But once they're inside the opposing team's maybe 45 to 40-yard line, Greg the Leg can kind of boot it from anywhere, as long as the conditions are right.
Right. Exactly. So I want to move to another subject. Before we do, I want hopefully we got enough time to really touch on this. And that's the ever-ending stand or not to stand, for the national anthem, or kneel or not to kneel, as you could also say. Before I get on my soapbox, I want to get your take on that. How do you feel about that, and particularly not just as a professional athlete, but how do you feel about that, just in general?
I think personally now the message is so screwed up that it's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, or what do we do? Or what is society? Like, what are we supposed to do in society at this point when we are at sporting events? Do we just stand that way we don't catch backlash from everybody else around there? Or do we kneel because, it is kind of messed up out here, all over, from various aspects, socially, police brutality, people mistreating other people, it's just a mess out here. So it's like, if you do decide to do that, definitely respect to you if you decide to take a knee. And that's the other thing too. It's like the purpose of taking a knee and the reason behind taking a knee has evolved into, it's just not, police brutality. Is, at this point, is owners saying things about their players, that they don't agree with. So that's like the proper form, I guess, that they decided to, let's take a knee for the remarks, like Houston, let's take a knee for the remarks our owner said about the inmates running the prison.
Right.
But then 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, or at the beginning of the year, it was about police brutality. So taking a knee has evolved, and it has its own personal, I guess, beliefs behind the decision to take a knee, according to each player or according to each team. It's like a constant evolution of why we're taking a knee. So by all means, if you decide to take it, go ahead, take it.
Right. And I agree with you there, because like you said, it's like, at one time it was because Cap didn't get a fair shaking, as far as with an NFL team.
Right.
So like you said, there's been so many different reasons. And again, whatever your reasoning, whatever your belief, whatever, if that's what you believe in, what you stand in, hey, more power to you. I kind of thought it was a little odd. The situation with the Texans owner and the players, they had their chest poked out, and they said, you know what, we're going to make a stand. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna take a knee. This is a national televised game. So they had an opportunity to really make a statement. They took a knee. After they took the knee, national televised game, they got up and what did they do? They played football. They played football.
Right.
And and so and it's kind of like, this is how I look at it. Like, you have some people that they go to state, they have issue with a particular brand, a store, and they complain about that store every time they complain about the store, but yet they go back to the store every single time. They complain the whole way there. They complain while they're there, and when they go on their way home, they still complain. But you know what? Next week they're gonna still come back to that store.
Exactly.
So if you so you got to have some substance behind it, and I'm reminded by a quote by Ralph Boston. Being as far as being the first, being the first to cross the finish line. That's kind of, well, and I'm gonna paraphrase it. Being the first across the finish line is only winning in one aspect of the game, of the race. What you do after it really determines the outcome of it. So you took a knee. That's good. But what did you do after it? That matters. And like, even when people mentioned, the whole, and we gotta wrap it up, but I want to touch on this. The whole, are you going to watch football? You're going to not watch football. And I made it abundantly clear. Yeah, I'm going to watch football. I am, because that's something that I'm passionate about. But again, what was the end goal? Was the end goal to make the owners feel it in their pockets? Because again, I feel like this: if the end goal was to make the owners feel it in their pocket, this is what you have to remember. It doesn't just stop at football. If you want the owners to really feel in their pocket, you got to do a little research. Arthur Blank is also the owner of Home Depot, so you can't go to Home Depot. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Owner of the Seattle Seahawks, Microsoft, also has a basketball team. So you can't support the NBA. You also can't turn your computer on. You know what I'm saying? And right.
Jerry Jones, AT&T Stadium.
Right.
Don't pay your bill.
Exactly. Right. And a lot of these owners are, their money's tied into real estate, home development. So there's a chance that the home that you pay your mortgage to might actually be tied to one of the owners in the NFL. So what, are you going to not stay at your home? So again, I kind of felt like the NFL was used as a convenience. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, look, that's fine if that's what you believe in and you want to take a stand. But I'm gonna say, if you're going to do it all the way, because again, you have to put yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable. And others will also have to be in a situation that's uncomfortable as well for any type of change to occur. I mean, do you really think that during the civil rights movement, do you think Martin Luther King and the other civil rights activists, do you think they say, you know what, I'm only going to march from 7 to 8? No, seriously. It's going to be uncomfortable if you ever want to see some change occur. And again, I want to get off my soapbox, but again, again, the show is called Don't Believe the Hype. So that applies to any arena. As I said that before, it's not just about sports. It's about anything. Do your research, and whatever it is, whatever you believe in, whether you right, wrong, or indifferent, if you believe in it, no one can take that from you. And
well said.
Right. And I just want to end it on that note. Again, don't believe the hype. I'm Maurice.
And I'm Marcus.
See you next week.
Or whenever Dwayne wakes up.
Oh man. Oh man.
That's definitely for the outtakes. That's one for the books right there.
Dwayne is still rolling.
Right.